So, Congressman, when it comes to congestion pricing, you are in favor of the idea. You have been for quite some time. Now, you just heard some of those concerns of your fellow congressman, a Democrat, Josh Gottheimer, saying, can people really afford this kind of toll right now? So what is your answer to that argument?
Look, there's no question that congestion pricing might be a burden, but the alternative is even more expensive. If we allow the public transit system to deteriorate, that's going to impose a much greater cost on working class people. Our state and our city cannot survive and succeed without a fully funded public transit system, which is the lifeblood of our economy. Public transit is too big to fail. And as far as I'm concerned, the governor has no greater responsibility than to preserve the MTA, the public transit system, for the next generation of New Yorkers. If you object to congestion pricing, then what is your alternative proposal? What is your proposal for generating the $15 billion that we need to sustain the public transit system? Right? If you have no alternative, then you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. You're part of the obstructionism and opposition that prevents our city from moving forward.
Yes, I hear you, right? But the election showed one thing, and that was that the economy is top of mind for so many voters. And I've heard you this whole week talk about the economy and how Democrats should be focused on it, right? So people are saying, well, we're not happy with the current situation, and with now an extra toll, isn't a little tone deaf when the economy was top of mind?
We cannot afford the collapse of our public transit system. You know, I represent the Bronx, which is home to the essential workforce. And during COVID, we saw essential workers put their lives on the line in the peak of the pandemic so that the rest of the city and state could safely shelter in place. Our essential workers depend on public transit. And if our public transit system collapses from chronic underfunding, from deferred disinvestment, that's going to have a disproportionately destructive impact on the essential workforce in New York State, on the lowest income communities of color like those in the Bronx. And so I see congestion pricing as a win for environmental protection, a win for public health, and a win for public transit.
Governor Hochul vows that congestion pricing, Congressman, will go into effect on January 5th, okay? So that's before the inauguration, of course, of President-elect Trump. So some are saying that the pause by the governor was to help Democrats in the election down ballot, and that this was a bait and switch to pause it and then unpause it right after the election. I'm curious your thoughts on that take.
Look, I thought it was unwise for the governor to pause congestion pricing. She did make the right decision in lowering the fees. It is much more affordable than the original proposal. And so the governor's striking a balance between the need to generate financing for the public transit system and the need to ensure that we have affordability in New York City at a time when people are struggling with the crushing cost of living, with record high inflation.
Yeah, so does what she's doing right now in terms of the January 5th start date, which is right before the Trump administration is inaugurated, does that protect the plan from the incoming administration who says it's dead on arrival?
Look, the governor is acting urgently, so I'm cautiously optimistic that if we move urgently enough that we can protect the plan from derailment at the hands of the Trump administration. But again, there may be litigation. As you know, yeah. There's no shortage of opposition and obstructionism from the governor of New Jersey, from a number of my colleagues in New Jersey. So it could be entangled in litigation, but the governor moving as quickly as she's doing is going to hamstring the ability of the Trump administration to derail congestion pricing.
And your colleagues in New York, the Republicans on Staten Island, Congressman Malliotakis, Congressman Mike Lawler as well. But I want to move on right now because we're talking about the next administration, the makeup of Washington, what it looks like, right? And it's about to look a whole lot different. You know this. So can you give us some sense, Congressman, of what the House is doing? Now the Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the White House. Are Democrats, I guess when you look at this from a 360 view up in the air, in damage control mode, or is there some hope of bipartisan Congress?
Even though the Republicans are going to control every branch of government, keep in mind that the House Republican Conference, their margin of control is so small that there's going to be no governing majority, that nothing consequential can happen without the buy-in of House Democrats. So I see House Democrats under the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries as the front lines of protecting the American people from the extremes and excesses of a second Trump presidency. So we are going to be the most powerful minority in the history of the House of Representatives. That's my prediction.
Okay, so but in the aftermath of the election, where do you see, Congressman, I guess the Democratic Party, right? 'Cause it would seem when you look at it that the country is shifting to the right. So what do Democrats need to do at this point in time to let voters know, hey, we hear you on the issues?
Look, I would submit to you that Donald Trump has no greater friend than the far left, which is alienating historic numbers of working class voters, blacks, Latinos, Asians, Jews, historically loyal constituencies of the Democratic Party. If we swing the pendulum too far to the left on issues like immigration and public safety, then we will keep losing elections.
And the economy,
we have
inflation.
to return to the center.
Right?
There's no question. The main reasons we lost were inflation, the migrant crisis, and to a lesser extent, the controversy around the culture war, trans issues. Yeah.
So what is the answer then for the Democratic Party? Is it to swing the pendulum the other way? Is it to hear voters on the issues? Is it to just have a better messaging on those topics?
I think we have to stop pandering to the far left, which is more representative of social media than it is of the real world, and start representing the priorities of working class people on the ground, right? The American people expect the government to deliver on the basics: an affordable cost of living, safe streets and safe neighborhoods, and a secure border. That's where our focus should be, on the basics.
Right. So, even when you look at it from the New York City point of view, and New Jersey, I mean, New Jersey was 5 points from Trump winning New Jersey, right? New York was 12 points. New York City was more red than we've seen in decades. So how do you kind of point to that? Is it a far left issue, or is there something greater here?
Well, keep in mind that Donald Trump made gains among working class voters of color, particularly Latinos, during the 2020 election, during the backlash against defund the police. And then he built on those gains decisively in the 2024 election. But those gains did not begin in 2024, it began in 2020. And so we know that far left positions like open borders, like defund the police, alienate the majority of the American people. We have to recognize that the majority of the American people are in the center. When the Republicans swung the pendulum too far to the right on abortion, the Republicans paid a price in the 2022 congressional midterms. Their red wave was reduced to nothing more than a trickle. But if we swing the pendulum too far to the left on immigration and public safety, then we will lose elections, just as we did in the 2024 election. So there has to be a return to the center and to the basics of governing: affordability, public safety, border security.
Congressman Ritchie Torres, always appreciate you making the time for Picks on Politics. Good to talk to you, sir.
Absolutely.